The warning alarm screamed through the underground facility, their harsh crimson light painting Dr. Elena Rodriguez's face in stark, desperate strokes. Titan's research base, humanity's last outpost in the solar system, had become a tomb waiting to be sealed. Outside the reinforced windows, the hegemony's planet-killer weapon hung like a metallic nightmare against the darkness of space. Its quantum resonance generators pulsed with an alien rhythm, charging for the final devastating strike that would eradicate the last human presence beyond Earth's atmosphere. Elena's hands moved with a surgeon's precision across the holographic interfaces. Sweat beaded on her forehead, not from fear, but from the intense concentration of a mind working at the absolute limits of human potential. Around her, the remaining 200 colonists, scientists, engineers, support staff, watched with a mixture of terror and unexplained hope. Quantum destructive interference, she muttered, more to herself than to anyone else. They're using a predictable matrix, always a pattern, always a weakness. The base's chief engineer, Marcus Donovan, approached her station, his prosthetic arm, a testament to humanity's adaptive technologies, sparked slightly, a nerve connection misfiring under the stress. Rodriguez, we've got less than 8 minutes before their weapon reaches critical charge. Elena's eyes never left the complex holographic model she was constructing. Quantum mechanics had always been her playground, and now it would become humanity's salvation, or its final epitaph. Their weapon operates on a closed quantum loop, she explained, her voice calm despite the imminent destruction. It requires absolute symmetry to maintain its destructive potential, but symmetry is also its greatest vulnerability. The base's communication systems crackled. External sensors showed the hegemony's mothership positioning itself for the final strike. Hundreds of smaller support vessels surrounded the planet killer, creating an impenetrable defensive formation that had crushed countless civilizations before humanity. What the aliens didn't know was that humanity's greatest strength had never been its initial technological capabilities, but its ability to adapt, to see patterns where others saw chaos. Elena's fingers danced across the interface. She was no longer just analyzing the weapon's quantum signature. She was rewriting its fundamental operational parameters. The entire colony's power grid began to redirect, transforming from a survival system into a massive quantum interference generator. Everyone, brace for quantum cascade, she called out. No panic in her voice, no fear. Marcus looked at her, understanding dawning in his eyes. You're going to use the entire base as a quantum resonance weapon. A slight smile crossed Elena's lips. Not just a weapon, a message. The quantum interference pattern she generated was mathematically perfect, a complex, beautiful algorithm that would become humanity's first true declaration of war. As the hegemony's planet-killer charge, Elena's system began to feed back its own destructive energy. The first sign that something was wrong came as a barely perceptible shimmer in the weapon's energy field. Then a cascading failure, spreading like a virus through the alien technology. When the explosion came, it was spectacular. The hegemony's most advanced weapon, designed to obliterate entire planetary systems, turned its own destructive potential against itself. The mothership erupted in a quantum-fractured brilliance that painted the darkness of space with impossible colors. Carved into the expanding debris field, visible through the base's external cameras, fragments of the alien vessel formed an unmistakable message. We are not beaten. We are just getting started. Humanity's revolution had begun. The Tokyo subway system had never been designed for war. Yet as Captain James Okoro crawled through a maintenance tunnel, the abandoned transit network had transformed into humanity's most intricate defensive labyrinth. Electromagnetic coils salvaged from maglev trains now hummed with weaponized potential. Optical fiber networks had been rewoven into a communication system that could ghost through the hegemony's most advanced tracking algorithms. Every turn of the tunnel revealed another testament to human ingenuity. Survival reimagined as resistance. Okoro's tactical overlay flickered, projecting a holographic map of the city above. The hegemony's occupation forces moved with mechanical precision, believing they had crushed human resistance. They were spectacularly wrong. A soft buzz from his comm unit. It was Dr. Yuki Tanaka, the network's primary engineer. Ghost protocol is ready. Waiting on your mark. His fingers brushed against the quantum adaptive communication device, a piece of technology that had taken the combined efforts of underground research cells across 3 continents to develop. Conventional military doctrine was dead. This was warfare reimagined. Initiate, Okoro whispered. Above ground, the transformation was instantaneous. Hegemony patrol units suddenly found their targeting systems overwhelmed. Holographic decoys appeared simultaneously in multiple locations. Surveillance drones spun wildly, their sensors unable to distinguish between real and fabricated signals. In the Brazilian Amazon, a completely different front of the resistance was taking shape. Indigenous communities who had survived centuries of human colonization now applied their deep ecological knowledge to alien technology. Maria Santos, a Kayapo engineer, had developed biological interference systems that could temporarily disable hegemony electronics using engineered fungal networks. Technology is just another ecosystem, she would tell her team. And we know how to adapt. Their method was brilliantly simple. Genetically modified fungal spores, carrying quantum-entangled nanocircuitry, would attach to hegemony equipment. Once activated, they would create localized electromagnetic disruptions that made alien technology temporarily useless. In the underground research facilities scattered across the globe, a new kind of warfare was being born. No longer was resistance about matching the enemy's technological might. It was about transforming the very concept of conflict. Back in Tokyo, Okoro watched as the first wave of their distributed resistance unfolded. Hegemony units that had confidently marched through the city now found themselves lost in a labyrinth of technological ghosts. Communication channels fragmented, tactical networks collapsed. A message burst through their encrypted channels. It was from the Global Resistance Coordination Team, a loose network of scientists, former military personnel, and civilian volunteers. Confirmed disruption pattern achieved. Total communication blackout in Sector 7. Estimated hegemony unit disorientation, 87%. Okoro allowed himself a slight smile. The aliens believed they understood warfare. They had conquered countless civilizations using overwhelmingly superior technology and ruthless strategic precision. But they had never encountered a species that could turn an entire urban infrastructure into a living, breathing weapon system. The subway tunnel around him seemed to pulse with a quiet, dangerous energy. Humanity was no longer fighting to survive. They were fighting to redefine the very nature of resistance. Prepare next phase, he subvocalized to his team. We're just getting started. The underground revolution had begun, and the hegemony had no idea what was coming. The Andes research facility looked like nothing more than an abandoned mining complex from the surface. Kilometers beneath the rocky terrain, Dr. Marcus Reyes stood before a holographic display that was about to rewrite the fundamental laws of technological warfare. Sweat beaded on his forehead, not from heat, but from the intense concentration of a mind pushing against the boundaries of known physics. Surrounding him, a team of the world's most brilliant researchers, each recruited for their ability to think beyond conventional scientific limitations, watched with a mixture of anticipation and barely contained excitement. Quantum entanglement isn't just a property, Reyes muttered, more to himself than to his colleagues. It's a language we've barely begun to understand. The breakthrough had come from an unexpected combination of disciplines. Dr. Aisha Kwizi, a quantum physicist from Kenya, had been working alongside Dr. Luis Mendoza, a neurobiological engineer from Argentina. Their collaborative research had uncovered something that would make the hegemony's most advanced technologies look like children's toys. Adaptive quantum neural mapping, Kwizi explained to the team. We're not just mimicking alien technology. We're creating a system that can fundamentally reshape itself in real time. The holographic display erupted with complex geometric patterns, mathematical representations of a technology that could think, adapt, and evolve faster than any computer ever conceived. What they had created was more than a weapon or a communication system. It was a living technological organism. A warning alarm interrupted their concentration. External sensors had detected a hegemony reconnaissance drone approaching the facility's perimeter. Most research teams would have panicked. This team saw an opportunity. Live test, Rise announced, a dangerous glint in his eye. Mendoza's fingers danced across a control interface. The adaptive quantum system, which they had nicknamed Proteus, began to interface with the facility's external communication arrays. The hegemony drone approached, its advanced sensors sweeping the terrain. Sophisticated camouflage systems should have rendered the research facility invisible. Instead, something extraordinary happened. Proteus didn't just hide. It began to actively communicate with the drone systems, speaking in a language of quantum information that was simultaneously everywhere and nowhere. The drone's navigation systems became confused, then completely compromised. In less than 30 seconds, the sophisticated alien reconnaissance unit transformed from a tool of invasion into a passive receiver, broadcasting false information back to its controllers. "We're not just defending," Rise said quietly. "We're rewriting the entire concept of technological conflict." Dr. Queasy's display showed the quantum neural map expanding, consuming the drone systems like a living organism. It was beautiful. It was terrifying. A message came through their secure communications channel. It was from Captain James Okoro, coordinating with their resistance network. "Incredible," the message read. "We can use this to turn the hegemony's own technology against them." But Race knew they had achieved something far more significant than a tactical advantage. They had proven that human innovation wasn't about matching existing technological paradigms. It was about creating entirely new ones. The Proteus system pulsed with an almost living energy. Somewhere deep in the quantum realm, the rules of warfare were being rewritten. Humanity's technological metamorphosis had begun. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez stood before a holographic display that stretched across an entire underground command center. Hundreds of communication specialists, linguists, cultural experts, and psychological warfare strategists worked in a symphony of coordinated chaos. This was not a traditional war room. It was the nerve center of humanity's most unconventional weapon: information. "We're not just fighting with technology," Elena explained to her core team. "We're fighting with narrative, with understanding, with the fundamental power of human complexity." The hegemony's greatest weakness was its rigid hierarchical structure. Millennia of systematic conquest had created a civilization that understood power only through domination. They had no concept of the intricate cultural tapestry that defined human society, a network of connections more complex than any technological system. Dr. Raj Patel, a lead psychological strategist, pulled up a holographic map showing the communication networks of various hegemony-controlled species. "Each of these civilizations has been oppressed for generations," he said, "but they've never seen a pathway to resistance." Their plan was audacious. They would not just resist the hegemony, they would help its subject races understand their own potential for freedom. Specialized communication packages began to infiltrate alien networks. These were not simple propaganda messages, but carefully crafted narratives that spoke to the deepest psychological wounds of each subjugated civilization. Historical records, suppressed cultural memories, stories of resistance long forgotten, all carefully woven into a tapestry of potential liberation. In the communication center, linguists worked alongside AI systems to craft messages that could penetrate the most sophisticated alien communication filters. Each message was a weapon, precise, multidimensional, targeting not just information channels, but collective consciousness. A breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Maria Santos, the Brazilian engineer who had developed biological interference systems, suggested a radical approach. "Information is like an ecosystem," she told the team. "It grows, adapts, spreads in ways we can't always predict. They began to create what they called narrative viruses, communication packages that could adapt and spread across alien information networks, carrying messages of resistance, hope, and potential liberation. The first signs of success came quickly. Communication intercepts showed increasing confusion within hegemony control systems. Subject races began to ask questions they had never dared to ask before. Small acts of resistance emerge. A communication network disrupted, a supply line sabotage, a moment of collective hesitation. Elena watched the holographic displays, seeing the invisible war being fought in the realm of information and consciousness. This was warfare beyond weapons, beyond technology. This was a battle for understanding itself. A message came through their secure channels. It was from Captain James Okoro, coordinating with their resistance network. Psychological disruption confirmed in 3 major hegemony control sectors. They're losing their grip on their own narrative. Elena allowed herself a slight smile. The hegemony believed they understood power. They had no idea what was coming. Prepare the next wave, she told her team. We're rewriting the rules of conflict itself. The psychological battlefield was just beginning to unfold. The bridge of the human stealth carrier Prometheus hummed with a nervous energy that was equal parts determination and barely contained excitement. Commander Aria Chen studied the holographic tactical display, her fingers tracing the complex network of alien control sectors they were about to infiltrate. This was more than a military mission. It was a liberation. Target acquisition confirmed. Lieutenant Marco Rodriguez reported from the Quantum Navigation Station. We've got a clean insertion path through the hegemony's quantum shadow zones. The Prometheus was unlike any vessel humanity had previously conceived. Developed in the hidden research facilities beneath the Ends, it represented the pinnacle of human adaptive technology. Its hull could literally shift its quantum signature, becoming momentarily undetectable by passing through multiple dimensional states. Their mission was deceptively simple: liberate the Vorlax, a species that had been under hegemony control for over 3,000 generations. Intelligence suggested that the Vorlax possessed a unique neural network that made them perfect candidates for large-scale resistance. Initiating quantum communication cascade. Dr. Elena Rodriguez's voice came through the communication systems. She was coordinating from the underground command center, her expertise in quantum information systems making her the mission's strategic linchpin. The first phase of the operation was psychological. As they approached the primary Vorlax control sector, the Prometheus began broadcasting a carefully crafted communication sequence. It wasn't just a message. It was a complex, quantum-encoded narrative that would penetrate the deepest levels of the Vorlax collective consciousness. Images of their forgotten history began to flood their communication networks. Suppressed cultural memories, moments of resistance long buried, the true history of their civilization before hegemony control, all carefully reconstructed and transmitted. Lieutenant Rodriguez's quantum communication systems showed immediate results. The Vorlax communication networks began to fragment, then reorganize in unexpected patterns. We're seeing massive psychological destabilization, he reported. Their control systems are breaking down. Commander Chen allowed herself a momentary smile. This was warfare reimagined, not as destruction, but as liberation. The hegemony's control systems began to collapse from within. Small resistance cells emerged on Vorlax colony worlds. Supply lines became disrupted. Communication networks fractured. But the most stunning moment came unexpectedly. As their quantum communication sequence reached its peak, the Vorlax began to actively resist. Not with weapons, but with information. They started broadcasting their own suppressed histories, their own moments of resistance. Multiple liberation events confirmed across Vorlax sectors. Lieutenant Rodriguez called out, "They're fighting back." A message came through their secure channels. It was from the Global Resistance Coordination Team. First stage of Galactic uprising confirmed. Spread of resistance accelerating exponentially. Commander Chen knew they had done more than strike a military blow. They had shown an entire enslaved species the possibility of freedom. The Prometheus moved silently through the darkness between stars, a beacon of a revolution that was just beginning. Humanity was no longer just fighting a war. They were sparking a galactic transformation. The hegemony's ultimate weapon hung in space like a metallic nightmare, the stellar collapse inducer. It was a device capable of destroying entire star systems, a testament to the civilization's millennia of technological dominance. And now, it was pointed directly at the heart of human-controlled space. Supreme Strategist Vorlak watched from the command bridge of the primary mothership, confidence radiating from every calculated movement. Humanity had resisted longer than any previous species, but this was the moment of final judgment. "Initiate stellar compression sequence," he commanded, his multi-jointed appendages moving with practiced precision. What Vorlak didn't know was that Dr. Marcus Reyes had been preparing for exactly this moment. Deep within the hidden research facility beneath the ends, the final stage of Project Proteus was about to unfold. The quantum adaptive system they had developed was no longer just a communication tool or a defensive mechanism. It had become something far more profound. Quantum resonance at maximum synchronization, Dr. Aisha Queasy reported, her voice calm despite the immense stakes. The stellar collapse inducer began its activation sequence. Massive energy collectors charge, preparing to compress the very fabric of space-time around the targeted star system. It was a weapon of such devastating precision that it had erased entire civilizations from existence. But humanity had other plans. As the weapon began to charge, the Proteus system did something unprecedented. It didn't just defend or deflect. It began to communicate with the weapon's quantum matrix at a fundamental level. Lines of impossible mathematical complexity began to dance across the research facility's holographic displays. Dr. Rice watched in a state of focused intensity as the adaptive system began to rewrite the weapon's fundamental operational parameters. "We're not just stopping the weapon," he muttered. "We're transforming it." The stellar collapse inducer's energy began to behave in ways that defied everything the hegemony understood about physics. Instead of compressing space, it began to expand. Instead of destroying, it began to connect. On the hegemony command bridge, alarms erupted in a cacophony of confusion. Vorlak watched in growing horror as the weapon's energy signature began to change. What had been designed as a tool of ultimate destruction was transforming into something else entirely. The weapon's quantum matrix was creating a galaxy-wide communication network, connecting civilizations that had been isolated for millennia. "Quantum cascade complete," Dr. Queasy reported. The energy release was visible from multiple star systems. What should have been a moment of total annihilation became something miraculous. Waves of quantum-entangled information began to spread across the galaxy, carrying with them the accumulated knowledge and potential of multiple civilizations. A message burst through their communication channels. It was from Ambassador Elena Rodriguez, coordinating with the Global Resistance Network. "Weapon neutralized. Network established. We've just changed everything." Vorlak could only watch in stunned silence as humanity turned the hegemony's most powerful weapon into an instrument of unprecedented connection. The ultimate challenge had been met, and humanity had rewritten the rules of existence itself. The negotiation chamber was unlike any diplomatic space in galactic history. Suspended in a quantum-stabilized neutral zone, it existed simultaneously in multiple dimensional states, a physical manifestation of humanity's ability to transcend conventional limitations. Ambassador Elena Rodriguez stood at the center, surrounded by representatives from liberated species, former hegemony subject races, and the few remaining hegemony leadership councils. Her presence was a study in controlled intensity, a lifetime of preparation distilled into this singular moment of galactic transformation. "We're not here to conquer," she began, her voice carrying through multiple translation matrices. "We're here to reimagine what civilization can be." The hegemony's supreme strategist Vorlak sat rigid, his multi-jointed form a contrast to the fluid holographic interfaces surrounding the negotiation space. Defeat was a concept his civilization had never truly understood. Until now. Dr. Marcus Reyes stood to Elena's right, the architect of the quantum communication network that had fundamentally altered the galactic power structure. Their strategy was brilliantly simple: turn the hegemony's moment of defeat into an opportunity for collective reimagining. For millennia, your civilization has understood power as a zero-sum game, Elena continued. Conquest, subjugation, control. We're proposing something entirely different. The holographic displays began to shift, showing intricate networks of potential collaboration, not just between species, but between entire civilizational paradigms. Economic models that prioritized collective growth, communication systems that celebrated diversity, technological exchange protocols that viewed innovation as a shared journey. Vorlak's communication appendages twitched, the closest equivalent to a human nervous reaction. The proposal was so fundamentally alien to everything hegemony understood that it approached incomprehensibility. Captain James Okoro, now serving as a strategic advisor, projected a series of tactical and cultural analyses. Each slide demonstrated how humanity's resistance had not been about destruction, but about creating new possibilities. The military strategies, the technological innovations, the psychological warfare, all of it had been in service of a larger vision. We're not asking for your surrender, Elena said. We're offering a reset, a chance to reimagine what collective existence can look like. The most radical element of their proposal was its fundamental simplicity. Instead of punitive measures, they were offering integration. Instead of revenge, they proposed collaboration. The quantum communication network they had created would become a shared platform of mutual development. Representatives from previously subjugated species began to speak. The Vorlaks, the first species they had liberated, shared their experiences. The Krellinarian energy cultivators described how human intervention had restored their nearly extinct civilization. Each testimony was a thread in a larger tapestry of transformation. The old models of power are obsolete, Elena declared. Survival is no longer about domination. It's about adaptation, collaboration, mutual growth. Vorlak finally spoke, his translation matrix carrying a mixture of defeat and grudging respect. You have done what no civilization has ever done. You have not just defeated us. You have transformed the very concept of conflict. The negotiation chamber pulsed with quantum potential. This was more than a diplomatic meeting. It was the birth of a new galactic paradigm. Humanity had come to the stars not to conquer, but to connect. 50 years after the Great Transformation, the galaxy looked nothing like it had before. Dr. Elena Rodriguez stood on the observation deck of the Interdimensional Collaborative Hub, watching as representatives from over 200 different species worked together on the most ambitious project in galactic history. Her once black hair was now a distinguished silver, but her eyes retained the same spark of innovation that had sparked the revolution decades earlier. The quantum communication network they had created had become more than just a technological marvel. It was a living, breathing ecosystem of collective intelligence. What had begun as a desperate resistance had evolved into a fundamentally new way of understanding existence. Captain James Okoro, now the chief coordinator of galactic integration, approached her with a holographic report. The last of the isolated civilizations has been contacted, he said, a hint of pride in his voice. Complete network integration is now at 99.7%. The transformation had been more profound than anyone could have imagined. The rigid hierarchical structures of the former hegemony had been completely dismantled. In their place, a collaborative system had emerged, one that valued diversity, adaptability, and collective growth. Dr. Marcus Reyes's quantum adaptive technologies had continued to evolve. What had started as a defensive mechanism had become the primary method of interspecies communication and technological development. Species that had been enemies for millennia now shared research, resources, and dreams. A holographic display showed the current state of galactic development. Terraforming projects restored worlds that had been devastated by centuries of conflict. Shared research initiatives tackled challenges that no single species could have addressed alone. The concept of borders had become almost meaningless. "Remember when we thought this was impossible?" Elena said quietly to Okoro. He chuckled. "We never thought it was impossible. We just knew no one had tried it before." The most radical transformation had been philosophical. The galaxy had moved from a model of competitive survival to one of collaborative evolution. Every species brought something unique to the collective: their history, their perspective, their potential. A young researcher, a hybrid of 3 different species, approached them. Her very existence would have been impossible under the old galactic order. "The quantum archaeology team has completed its latest reconstruction," she reported. "We've recovered historical records from civilizations we thought were completely lost." Elena remembered the moment 50 years ago when they had turned the hegemony's ultimate weapon of destruction into a network of connection. It had been more than a military victory. It had been a reimagining of what was possible. The interdimensional collaborative hub was more than a research station. It was a testament to the power of collective imagination. Species that had once been bitter enemies now worked side by side, their differences celebrated rather than feared. "We didn't just win a war," Elena said, more to herself than to anyone else. "We started a revolution of consciousness." Outside the observation deck, the galaxy pulsed with potential. Thousands of research projects, millions of collaborative initiatives, countless moments of mutual understanding. All of it stemming from a simple idea that humanity had championed. Survival was not about domination. It was about connection. The human revolution had changed everything.